can we stop the 27 men who run America? We have had three major eras. You could perhaps argue a fourth one in the 1830s, but it gets real complicated there. But basically, we've had three major eras in the United States where we took on great wealth. The first was the American Revolution. We declared an independent state against the richest man in the world, King George II at that time, and the corporation that his family started in December of 1601, Queen Elizabeth I, that his family started, and in which he was the major stockholder, which was the East India Company. Then in the 1930s, again, we took on the morbidly rich, because through the 1920s, we reached these massive levels of inequality where the rich got obscenely richer and the poor got poorer. It was called the Roaring Twenties, but it was only roaring for people on Wall Street. And FDR took those people on and took them down. And now, here we are again. This is, you know, what got me thinking about this is this amazing study that just came out from Americans for Tax Fairness. And I published parts of that study in my op-ed today. Let me just read you two quotes from this. This is just breathtaking. The nation's roughly 750 billionaires are increasingly using their personal fortunes and the profits of connected corporations to drown out regular voters' voices and elect hand-picked candidates who further rig the nation's economy, especially the tax system, to make their wealthy benefactors even richer. This anti-democratic vote buying, totaling $1.2 billion in the 2020 election cycle, has expanded greatly in recent years. Now, this was facilitated in smaller part by earlier Supreme Court decisions, Buckley in '76, Bellotti in '78, but really mostly this started in 2010. In 2010, we got Citizens United, and Citizens United said, unlimited, guys. Actually, McCutcheon, 3 years later, 2013, said, completely unlimited. But by and large, Citizens United said, unlimited. You can own as many politicians as you want. You can own them as comprehensively as you want. When you give those politicians money and they do what you want them to do, that is not called bribery anymore. That is called free speech. And, you know, America gets run based on free speech, and whoever has the most money now gets the most speech. And so that's why it's been 30 years since really Congress has done anything consequential. Because this really started in '76, '78. And, you know, Reagan came into office, and that was it. The Republican Party got bought out by these right-wing billionaires, and here we go. So that's my first quote. Here's the second one. Billionaires pumped $1.2 billion into the 2020 elections, almost 40 times more than the $31 million they donated in 2010 when the Citizens United rules were first in effect. In the 2020 election cycle, billionaires contributed nearly 1 out of every $10. They are 0.01% of all donors contributing over $200. They are 1/100th of 1% of the donors, but they contributed 10% of all the money, 1 out of $10. Just in the first 2 years of the pandemic, these billionaire GOP donors, these 27 donors who contributed half of all the money to the two largest Republican super PACs, the congressional one and the Senate one. Just during the 2 years of the pandemic, those 27 billionaires made an extra $82 billion. Out of that $82 billion, they took $1 billion of it and invested it in politics, and as a result, they're getting back tens of billions in additional profits and lower taxes. It turns out that investing in politicians and ballot initiatives is the best investment you can make these days. You know, J.B. Pritzker, who is a progressive billionaire, he's the governor of Illinois, and he proposed a law, it was called the fair tax in Illinois back a year or so ago, and it would have lowered taxes on people earning $100,000 or less and raised taxes on people making $1 million or more. Wouldn't have affected anybody making between $100,000 and $1 million. Lower taxes on average people, raise taxes on people who earn over $1 million. You'd think that would be a no-brainer, right? And it would have raised $3 billion for the state of Illinois and closed a budget hole. But Ken Griffin, who is at the time was a resident of Illinois, he's since moved to Florida where there is no state income tax. Ken Griffin spent $54 million of his own money to carpet bomb the state with ads saying, oh, the Democrats are up to it again. You can't trust them. They're going to raise your taxes. Yes, they're going to start out with rich people, and next in line is you. And the good citizens of Illinois, I mean, you know, advertising sells. There's a reason why you see ads on TV all the time, right? and on this radio show, for that matter, because advertising works. And it worked in this case, and the people of Illinois bought Ken Griffin's pitch. And it turns out, according to this study now from ProPublica, that Ken Griffin would have paid an extra $51 million in income taxes that year. He spent $54 million of his own money to stop the raising of his taxes, which would have cost him $51 million that year. But in an average year, that was a very soft year. I mean, that was the pandemic year. In an average year, he would have paid an extra $80 million a year in taxes. So this was not an expense for this guy, for this billionaire. It was an investment. And the Supreme Court says, yeah, you can do that. It's all good. No problem. So here we are now. We're in a full-blown oligarchy. And the question is, can we get out of it now that the oligarchs have largely taken over? They certainly control the Republican Party, and they control enough of the Democratic Party to stop any progress. What do we do? Well, Congress has the power to overturn Supreme Court decisions. And the For the People Act would have overturned large parts of Citizens United. It was defeated in the Senate. It passed the House. It was defeated in the Senate by every single Republican and Manchin and Sinema. If we can get a couple more good progressive Democratic senators in the Senate, we might be able to pass that in the next 2 years and get, you know, and reform our election system.